what I want to touch on is the difficulties with the kind of weather that we've been having, and that is rain every day or every other day. And one of the things that we've also been having to go along with the rain is almost pure calm after the storms come through. We haven't had any breeze or any wind. And that's one of the main things that we always need after a rainstorm is for it to be breezy or windy, and that's going to help dry your plants out. And all the old timers used to say that air movement is the best fungicide, and it is. So if you have a small collection and it's outside and you can get a fan or some kind of apparatus that's going to give you some air movement, that's going to work wonders for you. If not, like if you have a big collection, and I know there's several people in here that have big collections that grow outside, it's almost impossible to have air movement, man-made air movement on your entire collection. So I always wish for it to get breezy or windy after the rains. And this month we've been having, like, if you look out there now, it just rained, probably rained a quarter of an inch or so in the last 20 minutes, and there's absolutely not one breath of air out there. So that's the bad thing. So how to help fight some of that is fungicides, and fungicides that you can spray during a rain or right after the rain. And one of those is the pool algicides that you can buy at Home Depot. You pay like $4 for a gallon. You can spray that straight on your plants, and that helps a lot for the black rot and a lot of the other funguses that we get during these rainstorms. Now, if you want to move up a notch and get into the commercial grade, you can start spraying the product called Xeritol. Okay. I didn't know we had that up there. Okay, there we go. So the fan movement, and I know a couple people that grow their collections on lanais or pool patios. They have this type of pedestal fan, the kind that moves back and forth, rotate. What's the correct word for that?
Oscillate.
Oscillate.
And it can
there
be,
you go.
like the one I use, can be out 24/7. In other words, I never turn it off. I never take it in. It's out right in the rain it is in a screen enclosure, but it gets rained on every day it rains.
So
every time
remember,
I water it.
So remember, we're stressing air movement. If you can get some air movement on your plants, you're probably going to have pretty good success in fighting the issues that you have in rainy weather. Okay, and yeah, the fungicides, the disinfectants, bactericide, and the one that I use is Xeritol. It's a little more expensive, and I spray it. Sometimes I'll go out with my backpack sprayer during the rain when it's raining, because it's a contact spray. As soon as it hits the plant, as soon as it hits the ground, it's done its job. So what you're doing is it's kind of trying to get ahead and use the old, a pound of prevention is worth 100 pounds of cure, or whatever that thing is. So anyway, that's what I suggest is the Xeritol, and then you can go to your fungicides. Your is there another slide coming up?
What was the smaller amount?
And
what was the other one?
algicide.
Pool algicide.
Really?
Yeah, that's the same thing. It's like some of the ones you pay like $12 for a little bottle for, and the pool algicide. And you can put it right in your sprayer, and this sprayer. And this is like a godsend, this little sprayer right here. You get them at Home Depot. You can turn it to one teaspoon, 1 tablespoon, 2 tablespoons. Got a little dial on it. Put your chemical in here right to your hose and go through and spray everything down. And you can pretty much eliminate all the issues that's caused by this rainy weather that we've been having.
Well, that would be really good because I have asthma. Every time I buy the stuff to spray, I have asthma problem. Clorox that's so much dry that.
Yeah, that's the brand of that pool algicide. There's several other brands, but I just grabbed that particular picture. And Physan is another type of
Physan it has almost the exact same chemicals as the pool algicide, and I think that Physan's like $22, and the pool algicide is $4 a gallon. You just put it in that sprayer, full strength, spray down everything, your benches, the ground, the plants, and you won't hurt a single thing. And it'll make your patio look cleaner too. So
No dilution?
you don't have to dilute it at all. No, I mix it straight. Now the xylitol, you got to mix that because that's a hydrogen peroxide based chemical, and that will, that'll burn up some plants if you spray it straight. So I put that with the recommended, and that's a tablespoon per gallon. Whatever is recommended is how I spray that, and I just mix it in here, turn it to half the setting. So if you want to spray a teaspoon and you can't get a teaspoon setting, you mix this half with water and half with xylitol, put it on a teaspoon, and you're getting a half teaspoon spray out of here. So it's
And it was interesting, I thought too, when I looked at the label for xylitol, that it also treats some of the viruses, and not only the mildew and algae and mold, but some of the viruses as well.
So yeah, as you can see, there's a pretty good list of what it fights, and it's everything that comes from the rain. The botrytis. I don't know if you've ever had white phalaenopsis, and they're outside, and all of a sudden you wake up one morning, they got little black spots all over them, and they're there for good. So if you keep them sprayed down with xylitol or the pool algicide, you'll eliminate that kind of issues also. Yes, ma'am.
Jim, when you're using the word algicide, are you using it as, it's also a fungicide, or?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. So, and the xylitol was actually made for pig farms and chicken farms and horse stables and stuff like that, and then they figured out that, wow, it works really good for plants too, and nurseries and big greenhouses to help fight off some of these issues, some of those things that are listed up there. So that's why it works so well. Okay, next. Okay, this is the old standby Clary's 3336 and fungicide. That's my go-to fungicide along with diethane. I mix those two together when I spray. Actually, I sprayed these plants last night, and I'll explain to you why I sprayed them when I get going on this. But that's what I used. I used Clary's 336 and diethane, and I sprayed with orthene too. So I sprayed that last night, soaked it down, and when I picked it up today to bring it in here, I thought, ooh, I can smell the orthene on that thing still. So, but that's another good one, the diethane M45. And they make, they make a diethane 75, and it's called diethane 75 with rain guard. It's really, really good, but it doesn't mix as well as the M45 does. So you got to really take your time, and what I have to do with that is I mix it in a quart container, shake it up really good, get it really soluble, then I put it in my sprayer. I don't put the powder in and try to mix it because I can never. It's always in the bottom of the sprayer when you're finished, and you don't know how much you got on the plant. So, but anyway, that's the two really go-to fungicides that I suggest during this kind of weather. And a lot of times I'll go out like either when it's raining, as long as it's not lightning, I'll go out there and spray while it's raining, and they're contact, and these are contact and systemic, which means the plant absorbs the chemical and fights off the fungus and the issues through the plant. So, but I'll go out right after it's rained and spray the xylitol, or spray the xylitol while it's pouring down rain, just to kill that contact kill on whatever's there. Then you can feel pretty good, and then of course it'll rain every day for the next week or two. So you got to kind of stay on top of it, but you can't afford to get black rot. And I wish I would have brought a leaf to show what the black rot looks like. But maybe there's a picture in here. But anyway, that's kind of what I suggest for your rainy day summer weather like we've been having, and July, and it looks like August is going to be another wet month too. So it helps to stay on top of it instead of letting your collection get totally infected. And some of these things like the black rot, is waterborne. So when it rains and the drops hit these areas that are infected, it spreads it to your surrounding plants. The next thing you know, you'll have 10 or 20 plants with black rot, and you don't really know why, but it's because one got away from you and then infected all the other plants. So,
And you wear protective gear when you use the chemicals, right?
well, yeah, you're supposed to.
Tell them what to do.
Yeah. I do wear glasses and I wear a respirator, and sometimes I'm not real. I don't get into the Tyvek suit and all that like it says you're supposed to, but it's if you go and you read about these chemicals, they're actually pretty mild, and people think that orthene is like, because it stinks so bad, and the reason it stinks so bad is they put an agent in it so they can tell where they've sprayed it. So it's not really and they've done tests. You can read about tests where people actually ate the stuff by the tablespoons, and it really didn't do anything to them. So it's a pretty mild chemical to spray on orchids. One of the better ones, I think. So even though it stinks, you can't spray it. You can't. It's good for ants, but you don't want to spray it in your house. Believe me. Okay.
Here's legal sunburn.
Sunburn. When you get an area like this on a plant, and it's really easy right now with the sun moving around like it is now, it's starting to go back to the south, and it's 2 months ago though, when it was still creeping over to the north, I had some plants that got sunburned because I didn't watch them every day, and all it takes is from one day to the next, that sun moves. You'd be surprised, it moves 6 inches and your plants burn up. So, but that's an area in these rainy days that is really going to be an area that can get infected quickly with fungus or viruses, anything like that. So you want to snip those off and stay on top of that. So, okay. Here we have a perfect example of black rot starting to take effect. You can see it starting on this new bud or this new growth, and on some older leaves there, and that's the way it starts. So what I suggest, if you get an area like that, either cut the entire leaf off and paint the cut where you paint it with the fungicide, and I'm gonna show you how to mix that up in a little while. So anyway, that's kind of what I suggest during the rainy season. Stay on top of your plants. Try to take a look at them every day, because you can be really amazed on how fast the stuff can spread through your collection. You'll look at it one day and maybe miss a couple days and come back and you're like, oh my God, look what happened. And it happens to me too. Sometimes I get where I can't look at everything and come and look, and I'll find and it seems to always affect the best plant you have in your collection. It's not going to affect the one that you paid $2 at the flea market for. It's going to affect the one you paid $50 at one of the good well-known nurseries for. That's the one that's going to affect. Take my word for it.
Like the blight you found the other day.
Yeah. I found and it's the first time I've seen it in a long, long time. But it's called Southern Blight, and it's one of the most infectious diseases that a plant can get, and I had it in 3 vandas right in a row, and it's really contagious. It's waterborne. Water hits it, and it just goes overnight. And I had it on 3 vandas that were probably 4 feet tall. Had them for a long time, and I was in there looking around at what I had in bloom and what I had in spike, and I found these three plants with Southern Blight, and nothing you can do. Throw the plant away. You can't cure it. You can't so they all went in the garbage can immediately. I drug them out of there, and then I went and got the spray, sprayed everything around it, sprayed the ground with the Zeratol, hoping that might help. So far I haven't seen anything else that's infected, but it was there. So, and if you're not out there looking at that kind of stuff, next thing you know, there's 20 or 30 plants have it, or a whole big area. So that's the suggestion. Okay.
Is the Southern Blight a virus?
No, Southern Blight is a type of fungus, and what you'll see is it looks like little tiny white beads, like almost microscopic, but you can see them, and they kind of fan out. They'll start at the base of a vanda and fan out, and it almost looks like spider mites. But it's that's what it's called, and I know it's deadly. So, and the leaves just like, if you didn't mess with those plants and come back a week later, the plant would be totally leafless. It'd just be a stem there, and all the leaves would be on the ground. So it's really infectious, and you can't do anything with it. They say to burn the plant, but I put them in the garbage can and get rid of them, get them out of there. So, okay. Any other questions on? Yes, ma'am.
With the black rot, after you cut it and take its fungicide and whatever, can the plant actually come back from black rot?
Oh yeah, of course. If you can cut the infected area off or cut the entire leaf off, and you put the fungicide on the wound, it's probably going to be fine. Yeah, it's not going to kill the plant unless you just let it go. If it gets into the stem or the pseudobulb, then it's an issue. That's why I'm trying to say, pay attention during this rainy season and make sure if you find one that has it, black tip on it, and they'll just get black and droopy and nasty. And then you can either cut it off like an ½ inch below the issue, or cut the whole leaf off and mix up some diethane or Clary's into a paste and paint it on there with a Q-tip. So, okay.
I have a question. How often do you do the Clary's diethane together? How often?
I spray probably every 3 weeks. And unless I see something, and then I'll go spray. Like I have 4 different little greenhouses. They're not covered. They got shade cloth on the top, so I get all the rain on all the plants. But if I see something, then I'll go. I have a big sprayer that I spray. When I spray 50 gallons at a time. But I have a backpack sprayer, a 4-gallon one, that gives you you're pumping it and spraying it, and so I'll mix up that, and that's where I have a spot spray. If I see something, then I'll mix up 4 gallons and spray everything around whatever I happen to see. So it's kind of how I work it. I'm sure other people do it differently. But that seems to work, okay? Any other questions on the fungicides or wet weather conditions? All I can say is good air movement and pay attention to your collection during this time of the year with all this rain. Yes, sir.
Question. Our lanai is screened. It's a screened-in porch. But
Yep.
It's a screened roof. We were thinking we actually had one of those roll-out stem-center awnings.
Mm-hmm.
We were thinking we haven't installed it yet. We just recently purchased it here. We were thinking of putting that up to go underneath the roof of the screen roof, like maybe half the time. During when it's raining every day, because they don't need to be watered every single day.
Sure.
Would that help?
Oh, absolutely. Anytime you can control the water on your orchids, that's doing something good for your plants. Because right now, with the amount of rain that we're getting, if you have a plant like that size and it's outside, like I haven't actually physically watered any of my collection in over a month. Vandas, cattleyas, and any of the other stuff that I try to grow, I haven't actually gone out with the water or turned the irrigation system on in over a month. So if you can control, but that plant, if you let that plant stay outside for a week in this rain, it's going to be so soggy and wet it'll take 2 or 3 weeks for it to finally dry out. And by then, it might have some issues down in the root system because it stays soggy and orchid roots don't like to be wet all the time, of course.
So if we put something like that up, we could actually leave that thing down for a couple of weeks when it's raining.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I would suggest that if you have that luxury, because your plants right now can go for, well, like I said, I haven't watered for a month, and I got some big plants that are pretty soggy, so it's
Okay, thank you.
yep. Okay.
Nature, they do come from rainforests.
They do.
They like water.
They do, but the rainforest can fool you. If you look at the amount of rain that some of the rainforest gets, it's not as much as we get. And the plants that are in the rainforest aren't in a clay pot. They're not in a basket. they're growing on a tree, and they get rained on, and it's windy, breezy, and 3 hours later they're dry again. But when they're in a pot like that,
Lots of different.
yeah, I don't think anybody's ever been in the rainforest and seen any kind of orchid growing in a pot. It's like, unless you've been to a special rainforest. So, okay. Any other questions before we move along?